really need to conserve your energy. So having that self-awareness of like, where do you want to put your energy is really important. And so that all comes down to having that self-awareness of what you want and what's best for you.
What is your take on raw content? Because that is, I think, the beauty of Bhadipa.
It just makes you way more relatable. And that's ultimately what people want. They want to engage deeply.
Yeah.
People don't want surface level interaction, and that's why, coming back to the earlier point, why these algorithms and young people are consuming one kind of content in multiple different forms is because they want to really explore it fully and deeply understand it. So the more of a depth of interaction you can provide, the better. And it's not about how many followers you have, but about the quality of engagement with your community is far more valuable. So I'm so grateful that
you accepted our request for coming to this lovely event, and for Sapio is something which has been brewing in my mind since a year, like Kunal mentioned. This is a very passionate project for me, and the first person who came into my mind when we were discussing about it was you, because you come from a background where you've created a beautiful space for authentic stories. You've created a beautiful space for each and every story and each and every character, not even a character, but real life stories to come to life and give such a beautiful platform like Bhadipa, and also create a ecosystem of distribution, business and everything. It is not easy to do that, having many verticals with you. I remember you talking about self-awareness with me. When you first came down to India, it was all about that you wanted to not be famous, but be well respected in your own field. When you were with Anurag Kashyap and you were having that moment, and then you said that. From where did it come? Because we are talking about personal branding, and this was something which really hit me. Yeah.
Yeah, so what Devyani is referring to is when I first came to India, I had just finished my film school, and I was here on a research mission. I was learning about the Indian film industry, and I spent some time with Anurag Kashyap in Mumbai, asking him about his production company. And while we were chatting, we were at a cafe, and just non-stop people were coming and interrupting, asking for pictures. And there was just a moment in that conversation, he was posing for a photo with someone, and I thought, this is so irritating. Not for me, but for him, he must be so irritated. And I don't think fame is something that I would seek out. And that was a moment of awareness where I said, I don't want to seek out fame for the sake of being recognized as a face and someone people want to click pictures with, but I do want to be well respected in my domain. I don't care if nobody knows who I am, but if I walk into an office, people should know where I'm coming from and what my work is. That's something that I would seek out. And that is something which it's very, you get distracted. In today's world, social media comes out, there's a new platform, Threads is published, and you're like, oh, let me get a bunch of followers, maybe be the first person on here and do something really cool. And I remember when I opened up Threads, I was like, yeah, I don't even use Twitter, why am I going to use this? So these moments of self-awareness, it just kind of stops you from having that, you don't want to waste your energy. I think in today's world, your energy is demanded on so many fronts, especially in a country like India, where whether it's private or public space, you're constantly being demanded. There's so many distractions. You really need to conserve your energy. So having that self-awareness of where do you want to put your energy is really important. And so that all comes down to having that self-awareness of what you want and what's best for you.
That's incredible, and I think everyone can resonate to that, especially when you said that you want to be well respected in your field. That is something I think everybody over here is looking at when it comes to social media. We are done with trends and reels and trending songs. We just want to voice our opinions, and that's, I think your valuable suggestions are going to really help all of us to learn more. When you came to India, you spoke about culture and social dynamics, and then setting up something like Bhadipa alongside Sarang. What were the challenges, and how did you think about making an impact with it? Because I'm sure there must be a vision behind that.
So, Sarang and Anusha and I, the three of us, we started this company called Devyani Pawar 2 years before Bhadipa began publicly. And that was just a production company to be a vehicle for our work. And we didn't have any lofty goals. We had ideas of things we might want to do, but we were very new to the industry and very green, so we were just trying and experimenting. And in those 2 years of experimenting, we discovered one thing, that as India was coming more online, brands were coming online. This is a time where brands were starting to get their own Twitter handles and things like that. They all wanted to have their own content and they all wanted to go viral. And that was something that we ended up getting a lot of work through as professionals. And we were freelancing, doing ads for ICICI Bank, Red Label Tea, and these companies who wanted viral videos for the internet. So we made a career out of that for a couple of years and got really sick of doing this brand relationships with them, because they all seemed to know what was going to go viral, and we had different opinions. Eventually, we said, enough of them telling us what works and what doesn't. We have a pretty good understanding. Let's invest in our own confidence. And at the same time, TDF, AIB were becoming very big in the digital space. At the same time, we had the perfect storm where we'd been pitching our ideas for web series, we'd been pitching our ideas for films to the Marathi industry, and we were getting rejected everywhere or dragged along with no end in sight. And we said, enough of this. They think our ideas don't work for Marathi audiences. They say Marathi people they don't understand things like this. Marathi things will only work with their massi. And we really disagreed, because the ground reality was we could see so much talent in the Marathi industry. So many people around us who were not able to consume Marathi content that they could relate with. Because, there is television, films, radio, theater. All of these things were doing very well in Marathi, but amongst older generations or for children. Nothing for the millennials. And they were instead watching Game of Thrones and international shows, not even English shows. There's Narcos and, all Money Heist. So we thought, language is definitely, it's not about that, Marathi people don't want to see something different in Marathi. It's just that no one's making it for them. So why don't we take all of these things that are working and we'll start our own platform, Bhadipa. We were the first ones in the space, so that was an added advantage for us. But it was our way of saying, to the Marathi people that, hey, here's a place where you can see something cool in your mother tongue. We consider it cool, whether you think it's cool or not is fine. And it's also our way to prove to the Marathi industry that, hey, look, see, people do like our stuff. There is an audience for this, even though you thought that there wasn't. And that was kind of the essential, process of how it all came together. But at the end of the day, when we're making this business plan, we really wanted to make sure that there was a value proposition for the audience. It couldn't just be, we want to do something for ourselves. We had to make sure that this was going to be valuable for people. So that was exactly how we reached out to the market. We tried to give something very different that other people weren't doing at the time. And I think that ultimately that differentiator is what worked for us.
That's incredible. And based on what you said, that digital media as a whole, like may it be YouTube or LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook at the time, digital media is constantly evolving. And more so after lockdown, everyone has become a creator. That scope and that field has increased exponentially, and it is for the good. But example, if I am from a business background and if I want to, in a straight word, if I want to market myself or if I want to voice myself on this platform, how can one do that? Because everyone, when I met them, had that same question that we don't have time, or how do we create our own core values that can be presented?
I think at the end there, what you said is a really important word. It's core values. Um, you also have to ask yourself, why do I need a personal brand out there? And what are other people going to get from that? I think when most people think of personal branding, they think, I want people to see my face. I want them to know my ideas and my opinions. But at the same time, it's not going to be that interesting. Most people only care about themselves, right? We all don't care about ourselves the most.
Yeah.
About ourselves more than anybody else in the world. We put ourselves first, right? So when you're putting content on social media which is about you, you also have to remember, what is everybody else getting out of this? And you need to constantly put yourself in the audience's shoes to create content that has value for other people. So if it's an opinion, how is this opinion adding value to the discussion? If it's a work tip or a professional tip, then don't just tell us something that people in your field already know, but give your experience with it. Give something new, which is not seen by everybody already. Don't just post a flow chart, but say how this flow chart impacts you on a personal level. And that kind of storytelling is one way that you can really differentiate yourself from the copy paste. Go for it. Use ChatGPT. ChatGPT can write your posts for you.
Yeah.
But they are not going to know your mind and your processes. So you can put the body of it in there, but ultimately you will need to say, why am I posting this? And why do people want me to post this?
Yeah.
Why would anybody care that I am posting this? And these are the core questions you have to keep answering.
That's incredible, because these core values, I remember reading a book called Ikigai, and it is exactly what she's recommending to. Now, because the social media has changed so much, and like you said, that people now want to look at more of a picture, more than a picture perfect content. They want to look at something which is raw, genuine, and something we can connect. Can you describe the shift what we are looking at? Because when Instagram was first there, everyone wants to be perfect. Like, you will edit your pictures 100 times before posting. There will be 50 odd pictures lying in your library, and then you'll choose one, or even if with the videos. What is your take on raw content? Because that is, I think, the beauty of Bhadipa.
So Instagram started as a platform for sharing photography amongst photographers and consuming photography amongst people who love photography. So it was never meant to be a personal branding platform. That was not the intention behind Instagram when they launched. LinkedIn is very different from an Instagram. Instagram is very different from a Twitter. Same with a Facebook. YouTube is wholly different than all of them combined. Sorry, what was the question again? Lost the train of thought there.
Yeah.
So I think that what's happened over the last 5 years is we've seen a major shift in terms of how people consume content. When I say that we started, everybody wanted something that would go viral.
Yeah.
Nowadays, almost nothing goes viral. And this has been studied. I think Google has put up a study recently in the last few months, studying, what is the Gen Z consuming on social media, and how is it different? And one of the main things that's happened is all of these social media platforms have isolated themselves. You try and get people to go to your LinkedIn from your Facebook, or go from your LinkedIn to your YouTube video. It's very difficult because they downgrade those posts. They don't let you leave the website. They don't like anything which makes people leave the site. That's one, just a insider tip for all of you guys. If you have a link, put it in the comments. Don't put it in the post. Now, these practices mean that, people say Gen Z don't have attention spans. They actually do. They have attention spans, but what they choose to watch now becomes extremely focused. And they will prefer to see one kind of content in 20 different formats. They'll watch 30-second, 90-second, 1 hour long video essays. They'll watch a web series about it. They'll watch a documentary, a film. But it'll mostly be hyper-focused around their interests. And the algorithms and the platforms are all there helping this, because all these platforms have multiple ways of consuming content now.
Yeah.
So when you enter that space, people are not looking for anything which is just gonna be aesthetic. People are looking for something which stands out, which is a breath of fresh air, which is going to be taking them down like a whole new algorithm hole. So ultimately, when you can show authenticity, whether it's because your post is not perfect, maybe, like right now in the middle of talking, I lost my train of thought. Just keeping those real moments, understanding that we all have our insecurities and weaknesses, and how we can build on that is a huge part of personal branding. I think for me, I never felt comfortable pretending I'm an expert in anything. But when I was very young and I was getting started in the industry, I felt a lot of pressure that I had to appear, fake it till you make it. Like pretend like I'm an expert and I know exactly what I'm doing all of the time.
Yeah.
And as I've grown older, I've become much more comfortable and in fact seeing the positive sides of showing my weak points and showing the rough edges, because it just makes you way more relatable. And that's ultimately what people want. They want to engage deeply. Yeah. People don't want surface level interaction, and that's why, coming back to the earlier point, why these algorithms and young people are consuming one kind of content in multiple different forms is because they want to really explore it fully and deeply understand it. So the more of a depth of interaction you can provide, the better. And it's not about how many followers you have, but about the quality of engagement with your community is far more valuable.
I think that's a very important take on what you said, because for new businesses like us or anyone else, for us it's like, oh, you just have these many followers and whatsoever, but the community is going to grow and you need to be consistent to do that. I also like the fact that Bhadipa and you have been, since the very beginning, have been very good with the distribution and collaboration, and in terms of the investments and the brand building, because at the end you can leverage social media for creating that value for yourself too. So can you give some suggestions on that to make it much easier? That example, if you want to earn out of your personal brand or something, how can one do that?
I think one has to, first of all, think about the long game first. If you're thinking short term on social media, it doesn't work. The only thing that happens quickly on social media is scams. Long term, we have to think about social media as being something that it's like your career. You are building it slowly. And the more slow the growth, the more organic the growth, the higher the quality, the community that is going to be that you're building. The experience we had at Bhadipa when we first started was, within the first month that we launched, I think we got 25,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which was huge and way more than we expected.
Yes.
And that growth did not continue at that speed. It only happened because it was something new and novel. First Marathi channel on YouTube, and we had celebrities coming in and being on the casting couch for our show, on the casting couch with Ame and Nipun, and that was unique. But after that, we saw a bunch of other Marathi YouTube channels enter the space. There's a few that really stood out, and they started gaining following, and they were accelerating far faster than Bhadipa was. And there were a few clues that told us that perhaps their following was not genuine or not engaged, because there's all these people out there promising to sell you this many followers, this many views. You just pay them this much, it goes to some click farm in Russia or China. You don't know what's happening, and then you go to that YouTube video and you can see there's people commenting in Russian. It's very it becomes very transparent after a point. And we till date have, like, we don't promote our videos. We don't have a monthly marketing budget at Bhadipa. We try and keep it as organic as possible. When we want to grow to a new audience, we will make some content related to that audience. We won't just market it in that area. And the only few times we've really done like big ad spends is when we have to show like Berozgar, and we were marketing it like a web series, like anybody would. So apart from that, it's been totally organic, and we can see that whenever we post a video, we can almost predict how many views is it going to get, how many comments is it going to get, what the conversation is going to be like when we put that video out. Whereas all of those other Marathi channels that had been launched just after us and grew really fast, after 2 years, they burnt out. The 3 lakh views that they were showing on their video only had 15, 20 comments, which is like a huge disconnect. And you can see that people who are watching are not engaged. So engagement is one of the most important factors, and if you can make sure you're keeping your community engaged, you won't need to spend money on marketing or advertising, but finding a way to keep conversation going within your community is probably the biggest tip that I could give anybody building a personal brand or a business brand. Whether you consider yourselves to be, a thought leader or an innovative product or just something that is kind of cool that you think people might like, you'll need to find ways to get people to talk about issues surrounding the values of your company and your personal brand. And if you can get people to engage in that and tell stories, share their personal experiences, then I think you're like way ahead of the curve. And then don't worry about how quickly you're growing, because that engagement is worth far more than 10 million views or 10 million followers. If you don't have people engaging, it's not genuine. And that's actually what brands look out for. When we are marketing and we're working with brands, we have a lot of brand sponsors. They do want to have the views, they want to have that exposure, but all of them will come in and they'll look and be like, oh, your channel has really good engagement. We saw, we checked the comments. You guys always get good comments on your videos. And we're like, because they're real views. It's that simple. So I think focus a lot on engagement. Don't think about the numbers. Just think about how can you create more conversations.
That's incredible. Now, I would like to ask, like in one line, can you tell me that one X factor which has helped you be at where you are since the day you started?
I think it's just about constantly reminding yourself of why people are giving you attention in the first place. What is it that people like about you? What is it that engages them? What is the value proposition that you are giving them? And so many of you are entrepreneurs, so you know what the value proposition might be of your product. But when you're thinking about the value proposition of your brand, you also have to think about that. I think that's, you said for one sentence, so I'm going on and on about it, but that's it, my one sentence.
I think it's the compound effect of the love and that respect which each and every person who looks at your content will give if you're consistent with who you are as a person. So this is it, and we are so happy that you could be a part of this one.
I would also just like to say thank you so much, Devyani, for having me here. Congratulations on launching Forsapio. It seems like a really exciting service that you guys are starting, and all the best with the AI stuff too. But it's definitely, the earlier question, which was about, how do I manage with so many things going on, I feel like Forsapio would be one option you should explore and see, because outsourcing is great and much needed. Nobody has time for this. So great.
Thank you so much.